Welcome in, everybody. This is the Indy 11 US Open Cup quarterfinal countdown. I'm Ian Gilmore, and in the next segments, we're going to take you through more than enough to get you ready to cheer on the boys in blue in the quarterfinal of America's oldest soccer competition. On the other side of the field from us is the 2018 MLS Cup winners and the winners in this competition in 2019, Atlanta United. The man whose job it is to get us past Atlanta United, fresh off a USL mid-season Coach of the Year nomination, is our gaffer, Sean McCauley.
Yeah, it's huge for us. I mean, we early on we said we'd never been this far, and then we get to the quarterfinals, and then quarterfinals probably give you a bit more national recognition. Semi-finals definitely do. So it's a really big game for us, but there's a bigger game on offer for us if we win, and I think that's the way we'll focus and look at it. That yeah, it's a great game for the club. We get a bit of recognition, but there's an even bigger one. 90 minutes away, 120 minutes. It's right there for us, and we've got to go there and try and get the win to again keep us in the competition, keep us running for a trophy, and give us that recognition. And we've got to manage the first game in Rhode Island with the squad, but we've also got to have a view on what happens on Tuesday night. I mean, Atlanta, in terms of the way they play, they've got some unbelievably good attacking players, and in terms of the defenders that they've got, I think one of them's a young kid that they might sell for 10, 15 million. They've just sold midfield play for 30 million. They've signed young players who are in their sort of development squad, and that'll be in the millions as well. They've got some good attacking talent, they always have. I remember them from my time in MLS when, Jeff Lorenowitz and Darlington Nagbe were in midfield, and it was just difficult to just play against them. We'll get a different experience because we're not at the stadium, but I still think we'll get the same atmosphere because the fans are very good. We'll get the same commitment and desire from the group of players that they put out, because we saw that when they played against Charleston. So we're looking at a really tough game and a tough opponent and a fantastic club. But like I say always, they'll be looking at us, and we've got a good reputation now of being a great club in this league. We need to now step it up and match that in the league above.
In 2022, Sacramento Republic of the USL made a famous run to the US Open Cup final. Our own Dougie Martinez featured in that team, scoring a goal and adding an assist on Sacramento's run to the final. He remembers the feelings that brought to the city and to the team, and hopes that he can help recreate those for the boys in blue in Indy.
I think I remember the most the first game against San Jose. I think it was one of the greatest games for the team, for the city. It was very special because it was the first time I saw the stadium packed, a lot of people. You can feel the vibes from the people. It makes us a better team that day. So since that day, Open Call, it felt different. I think playing against the MLS teams, it brings you a different feeling, because it's MLS one step ahead of us, and on the field was 11 versus 11, so we were doing our team now. We were doing what we like to do, to show the people, or to show everybody, to show the city of Sacramento that we can do a lot of stuff. We had a good team, and it shows on the field. It's pretty similar. I think if we, like I say, it's 11v11 on the field, so it doesn't matter if you play for a team that is ahead, one step ahead of you. I think this is a great team that can do a lot of stuff. Great players. I think that we can do our best on the pitch to make history with this team, because like I said, we have a really good team, and we are going to try to do the same or even better.
Playing against an MLS team is a unique experience for all involved. So to bring us some analysis on both sides of things, we bring in a unique individual himself. Devin Kerr is as plugged into the USL and MLS as anybody in American soccer. I'm sure you've heard him on Indy broadcasts before, and by now I'm sure you've heard him on MLS broadcasts as well. So he joins us to bring in some analysis on both sides and what the boys in blue need to do to pull off the win. Chip, I told him we were calling the eFootball simulation of it, so that's why he's got his headset on. Definitely, it's great to see you, man, and thanks for being a part of this. You called our game against Lou City on CBS in April, finished 5-3. Scoreline was probably a little bit kind to us that day. Two-parter to start you off here. Sean McCauley said that even on days like that early in the season, he didn't think we were that far off. Do you agree with that? And then what have you seen change since then?
Unique is probably the nicest term used this year to introduce me, Ian. First and foremost, thank you for having me. And yeah, I definitely wanted to make sure that I was broadcast ready with my own personal headset. I travel with it everywhere. Just kidding. Yes, the margins were not far off. It was very easy to see going into that match that the patterns of play, the quality were certainly there. Just what sort of combinations were necessary in order to find success. I know people are going to look at the tactical change for sure, working into a 3-back and what that has looked like for Indy. Certainly for me, I believe it opened up ideas for them, but more so just the confidence that rests within the group, because I look at this Indy 11 team now as top 5 team in USL Championship. In terms of style of play and quality, I'd probably put them in the top 3, right there next to New Mexico United and Louisville City. And people probably sit at home and think, oh, it's easy to pick the 2 teams atop the conferences. Well, it's easy to pick those 2 because they are the best in their conference. Sacramento Republic in there as well, although they're dealing with their own injury issues. But there is such a positive flow about this Indy 11 team that every single time they're on the ball, it can be 25 passes to string together, working things side to side, depth within the ranks, and it can be one long ball up over the top that sees 2 or 3 guys running in transition to be able to create goal opportunities and hopefully tickle the back of the net. There's top quality for this team right now, and for me, it's probably the best opportunity for a lower division team to move through into the semifinal in the Indy 11 matchup against Atlanta United.
And I feel like probably some of that sentiment comes from the opposite side of things, from the Atlanta side of things. What do you see when you look at them, and what do you expect on Tuesday?
That's fair. I would say that 100% plays into it. Listen, you lose your head coach in Gonzalo Pineda a couple of weeks back. They fired him. It didn't go as planned. They've sold Georgios Giacomakis for, what was it, $15 million, if I'm not mistaken. Another $20 million add-on reported for their most recent departure in their number 10, Thiago Almada. They've had injuries all over the pitch. They've changed formation back and forth as well. And within that, they've lacked confidence the entire time. Confidence was the word that I utilized for Indy 11. It's very similar for Atlanta United. There's a ton of talent there. There's no question whatsoever. But there's not a ton of leadership within the group, which concerns me. I mentioned the pieces that have left because of the sales, which is awesome for them, and they're going to be able to take that money and reinvest into the group. But with Rob Valentino on the sideline there, assistant coach leading, he's been there. He's got a vision. But it's difficult for players to chase a vision that they don't necessarily know how long that person's going to be in charge. And when you don't have a leader at the top, and there's not really a leader in the clubhouse within that locker room, that's difficult to find results. And that's what you're seeing in their performances. Still some really good ball movements here and there, but they make a lot of mistakes. And an Indy 11 team that can quickly move into those positions, that's why I think it's ripe for the matchup. There's been so much noise throughout the season coming into the year about the Open Cup and the change in format and this, that, and the other. I think that's BS. I mean, understandably so that, yes, it's not the tournament that we knew from, even last year or years before, but it is still the U.S. Open Cup. This is still a journey that whomever is involved in, it is a very difficult thing to go and win. Any MLS coach will tell you that, right? And a USL team, 3 of which in the final 8 that have moved themselves in an opportunity to go in the final 4, don't take that for granted. It should not be taken lightly, the opportunity that's put in front of this team and what they can go and do. They can still make history. They can still go and move as one of the lower division teams to get into a semifinal, which basically no one had been able to do for the better portion of 15 years, albeit FC Cincinnati and Sacramento Republic. No one's going to remember, respectfully, 20 years from now, what the format of this tournament was. What they are going to remember is the historical value that was brought to a club, a semifinal appearance, moving into a final. And hell, maybe we're on the precipice of history once again, like the Rochester Rhinos of 1999, where a lower division team can go and knock off a first division squad in MLS. Why not? Don't take it for granted and go and chase that opportunity.
For as much soccer as he calls, Devin may be second to one man in the amount he watches. John Morrissey, or USL Tactics, as you might know him on Twitter, is the premier tactical social commenter in the USL. And as an Indy native, I have a feeling he might be biased on Tuesday night. But nonetheless, we bring him in now for a deeper tactical dive into Tuesday night's matchup.
And when Sean McCauley decided we're going to try it out with the back five, we're going to bring in Ben Afemo and Ben Mines to really help alter the formation, that flip switched immediately. And you've seen the way it activated Aiden Stanley on the left, gave him a little bit more freedom to operate and serve in crosses. I think it had a similar effect on Jack Blake in the midfield, where you know you have more support in defense, so he can be freer with his game. And obviously a lot of his goals have come on penalties, but it's the process to get there, right? Like, this team is looking confident in possession. They're getting the ball into the opposing box. And whenever they have a lead, they know when to sit back. They know when to pack it in defensively, form up a much deeper, almost 5-3-2 sort of shape. So I think that the way that Indy reads the game has improved, and I think that they know how to attack with a little bit more of a comprehensive cross-field sort of intention. I think, interestingly, Atlanta, they've been back and forth with their shapes. They used a 4-2-3-1 in that game, which we haven't seen as of late, but it could be just what they're going for in the Open Cup. They also pressed a lot more aggressively against the Battery than we saw from them in the league. So there's a chance Atlanta gets away from what they're doing best in MLS. I would argue that that's probably a benefit to Indy. Like, any team that's reinventing the wheel, getting away from the tactics that they're usually running, is naturally going to be a little bit more vulnerable. So if Atlanta does come out and press like they did against the Battery, there's going to be openness in behind that we can take advantage of. You need to come out focused. You need to set the tone for the fact that you're here to play. Atlanta is a team with a lot of guys who really kind of know the USL. Like, Daniel Rios was there in 2018 with North Carolina. Noah Cobb and Johnny Fortune came up. They think they're kind of the big guns now, right? If you can scare them into saying, we can't come and dominate this game, we have to respect what the 11 are doing, that is going to set up the whole 90 minutes for a real back and forth, rather than just having the 11 net be pelted by shots all night long. So if you can get something early, that's perfect. If you go out there, you put in some nice passing sequences, you defend mistake free, you're going to give yourself the platform to build and really go on to get the win.
Well, how did we get here? A 3-0 win against Detroit City in May got us past the round of 16 and now into the quarterfinal. Assistant coaches Gabe Zapponi and Phil Presser broke down the strategies and tactics that helped us earn a win in that game and lead us to victory in the previous round of the Cup.
Yeah, Phil Presser here, assistant with Indy 11. Do a reflection on the Detroit game from the attacking side. So one of the big influences going into it was we had just come off a game at Hartford on the weekend, and we had Phoenix the next weekend, and we had them midweek. When you look at Detroit, they're coming off, I think, a 10-day break, so we knew they were going to be very fresh. Right away, they were in a 4-2-3-1. We knew we could capitalize in the wide areas here with our system against systematically 3-5-2. We also wanted to make sure that our hold-up play was good, but not only the hold-up play, but we had some movements behind to occupy these two, because the first time we played them, it was a 1v1 battle both here and here, and a lot of times we were coming to the ball and we made it easy for them. So we wanted to stretch the game. So when you look at the game and the results, what happened with the first goal, ball came into the striker, we were able to find the wide player and then create an overload, a 2v1 wide. And so when we got the ball wide, we put the ball in the box, and we had 1, 2, 3, and 4 from the top of the box to capitalize on the first goal. So exerted a bit more pressure on them. Another thing we wanted to do is we wanted to increase the amount of counterattacks we had. So far this season, up until that point, we hadn't had many counterattacks. This game, I believe we had 3 very, very good ones, but the second goal came from a ball in here, a little bit of out of possession, and then runs behind for both of them, like we discussed. Ball in behind, these two linked up for a goal. So we got them in the wide area, and then we also got them behind, which is 2 things we wanted to do going into the game. Up 2 goals, we kept pushing the game, pushing the attack. We had momentum. I believe we had 8 corner kicks throughout the game statistically, which is very, very high for a game, especially being in a 3-game week. Third goal, we were able to capitalize on a corner kick offensively. So balls behind, balls in wide area, creating overloads. and being on the front foot, making them make mistakes, getting in their end, and capitalizing on restarts. We were able to do 3 of them in the first half, and that's when ultimately in the USL, the other team starts to push the game, and we became in more of a defensive shape.
Now we're going to focus on the defensive side of the game, especially on the second half, where we saw ourselves defending a lot on our defensive half. So we're going to look at how we change a little bit of our shape from a defensive, but also keep the mentality of the guys winning the individual battles. And as a team, we had a 50% duels, aerials, and on the ground on tackles as well. So one thing that we're going to start seeing in the second half, Seba helped a little bit more on this line here with Jack and Cam. Of course, as the game is going on, maybe find Seba, Cam, the shape, the personnel here doesn't matter. What matters is we have a line in front of me here, especially if Max Rodriguez moving around in those gaps. The second thing that you're gonna see from a defensive side is Dougie helping a little bit on this side, helping Ben Mines and Ben Mofemo, and then allowing Stanley to be aggressive on this side. This also allows us to, when we regain possession, have Dougie exploring that channel, because this guy was coming forward to overloading that side. So the other piece that's crucial to the game is the concentration on restarts, throw-ins, set pieces, wide free kicks, corners. They had 10 corners in the entire game. A lot of them came on the second half. So the concentration from the guys that we hit on them a lot about their focus and urgency on set pieces is crucial. So good job to keep the clean sheet, which was one of the main topics on the halftime talk. But as you can see, we try to keep very compact defensively and trying to explore the outlet to Dougie. That was the main key on the second half. On that note, keep the concentration into the next round, because our goal is to go as further as we can in the Open Cup. So if the guys can replicate that again, I think we have a good chance to keep moving on the Open Cup.
To know the game you're playing, you've got to know the opponent across from you. So let's talk to somebody who's been embedded with Atlanta United for multiple seasons now. Joe Freihofer is the digital host for the Five Stripes. As an old friend of mine, I had to pick his brain for what to watch out for when the boys in blue take the field in Atlanta.
It has certainly been a journey for the Five Stripes this season. We saw the departure of Gonzalo Pineda about a month ago now, and it's Rob Valentino who comes in. He was a staff member for Pineda, stepped up for the second time now in the history of his career as an interim manager. The new mindset that Valentino's instilled into this locker room, having that grit. I've had the pleasure of hearing some of his halftime talks where he talks to our guys about blocking out all the noise. It's us now. It's this group. We still have time to push back into one of those playoff positions, and we're doing just that, climbing back now into 9th right now. So that's a playoff spot for us, play in, I should say. We can continue that run should things go this way. And the Open Cup, I hate to say it for your guys' sake, but this has been not only a sweet escape for us in terms of getting away from that form in MLS play, but also finding a bit of our form offensively as well. I think it's been an escape and a way for us to push towards trophies, something that this club always says we're all about. The star sets the bar above the badge. That's one of our favorite phrases. And I think hopefully you'll see that for the Five Stripes continue on Tuesday against you guys. I think the availability of all the different competitions that are going on right now, the Summer of Soccer too, that's been a huge factor. We had a lot of different cast members away. We just got back Luis Abraham, who was away with Peru, a center back there. Saba Lobjanidze making that unprecedented run with Georgia, the lowest seeded country, getting past the group stage. So magical stuff seeing him move forward in that competition. Getting Bartosz Ślisz back, who's our new Polish midfielder, been taking the league by storm this season, a crunching tackler in midfield that we've now got back in rotation. So I think the midfield is one of the biggest areas where we tend to mix in a lot of guys from the second team. We've seen some names like Ashton Gordon, Jamaican internationals, incorporated himself into the attack as well. Johnny Fortune is a guy who has come up from our second team into our first team and really developed this season. He's got into rotation. I'm going to give you a dark horse here of Dax McCarty. And I'll say this name because of the fact that this is a guy who is second in MLS in outfield appearances right now. He had no reason to continue. A guy who's had remarkable quality his entire career and could have walked off into the sunset after his time with Nashville, comes to Atlanta United because he said the talent that he saw in this group gave him enough to think that he could win a trophy with us this year. That is what he's hunting for this season right now in the U.S. Open Cup. He's been that leader out there, worn the armband a couple of different times. Watch him in the back with his long, lofting balls over the top as well. His service is always on point.
All that's left now is to play the game. If you're not heading to the ATL, we hope you join us at our Indy Fringe watch party. JMV live show from 3 to 6, huge merch sale, and a bunch of supporters to watch the game with. 7 p.m. versus Atlanta United. Come on, you boys in blue.